Hello everyone and welcome to the Hasn't Motorsport channel. In today's video we're looking at the F2 Driver Championship predictions for 2025. Let's get straight into it. The 22nd place with John Bennett in the VAR team. Now he came second in GB3 last year, which is fine, but I think he's a lot older than the other drivers. I think he's around 22, 23. I think he's coming off GB3 to F3 is quite a big jump. I think we've seen that with like Callum Boysen and co. That GB3 might not be as good as Frecker is for parade drivers for F3, F2, and then we've also seen there might be a bit more jump up between F3 and F2. Even Antonelli, one of the best drivers ever, struggled going from Frecker to F2, and John Bennett, he showed that at the end of last season when he came in at the end of the season in F2 that he struggled. I think he will struggle this year. Above him, we have Keanu Shields, who came 30th in F3. And he's racing for AAX. I think this is a typical AAX move, where they get a nice, fast, young driver in to give them a bit of money and finish last for them. But with John Bennett, he's not going to be finishing last. He's going to be finishing 21st. He might even finish 20th. But it's up to my 20th person, Rafael Villagomez, performing. Now, he was 24th in F2 last year. He was a bit woeful, all being said. And I could see him beating his teammate in John Bennett, but only because he's got more experience, you know. It's going to be a funny time in the back three of the grid next year. I think all the other drivers, I'm fine with stepping up. I'm fine with being in the competition. These three, I think these are the pay drivers. Maybe we might have one more a bit further ahead, but it's going to be rough times at the back of the grid, and I would be impressed if any of these three scored any points. Not impressed with how good they are, but impressed with the team for getting them to that position. Then in 19th, I have Max Esterson with Trident, who came 21st in F3 last year. Esterson is a fine driver. He is American, which I think is a bonus, with a lot of American interest in the sport. So Trident might be looking to get some eyes on them. But yeah, he's a fine driver. I think he showed he was alright in F3 last year. By no means a world beater, but I'm fine with him stepping up. But I think he will lack the experience that the other drivers might have above him. So he might get some points here and there in a funky race, but not consistently. So he is 19th for me. Then we have 18th. And this is where I put Kush Miney, the veteran of F2, the Alpine reserve driver. He will obviously finish higher. I think he might finish higher, but it's just like, why is he still here? I don't see what he's getting out of it that he hasn't gotten out of it already. He had a good season throughout 2023, an alright season 2024, coming 13th. But what is he hoping for? Like, surely there's a better option somewhere out there for him, where he can kind of grow his career and make kind of a stamp and do something apart from staying in F2, where he's paying money to race basically. Surely he can go out somewhere and get a wage. So yeah, I think he might have a good solid races, but I think he's not going to have that fire and drive, because he knows that there's going to be like no output from another year in F2. So I don't know why he's staying. But these other guys that are coming in, they have a reason to be there. As in, like, they might have, like, this is either their second, first, third year. They're trying to build something. Kushmani, he's built something. It's not a whole lot, and he's still there. He should move on. Anyway, rant over. In 17th, I have Cordial, who's recently joined instead of Christian Mansell. I actually had Christian Mansell in my top 10, but Cordial drops down a bit. He was 17th in F2 last year. I think that's a good place for him this year as well. Roden showed they weren't great at developing their car in 2024, with kind of Maloney kind of dropping off towards the end of the season. And I think that shows the other teams kept kind of leapt up, developed well, and Roden couldn't kind of keep up with their car development, and Cordial is going to result in falling down the order. Well, not falling down, but like, I think he would be expected to be higher, but I think he's going to be lower than he expects, because it's a rough car. Cordial hasn't shown anything spectacular in F2, so it's fine for me. Mieta, I think it's going to improve this year and go to 16th from his 19th place finish last year. 19th for Mieta last year was woeful. I think I predicted him to finish second in my predictions, which was one of the worst shouts I've seen all season. But I stand on it. I watched the Super Formula in 2023, and he was fire. Maybe he can bring that Mieta back. I'm not sure. But I'm playing safe this time, and I'm going with the crowd and saying Mieta's going to have a rough season with ART, finish down in 16th. Above him, I have Montoya, who finished 17th in F3 last year and is with Prema, and I think his name might be the reason he's there. 17th in F3 with Prema isn't a great performance, seeing as the other guys who were with Prema finished way higher up in the top 10. So it's a rough time for Montoya. I think he's going to do okay in some races, be woeful in other races. Prema might be good, might be bad. Who knows these days in F3, also F2 with the Mechachrome engine and the kind of new car. But I'm happy putting Montoya down there. Above him, we have Roman Stanek, who finished 22nd in F2 last year. But for some reason, I have this affinity with him. I see something in Stanek that I think, he might just get a podium at a race, which might boost him out of that lower midfield pack and into 14th. He's a fine driver. He's still on the younger side of these F2 pack, so I'm quite happy with him sticking around for a couple more seasons and showing what he's got, a bit more than what he did last season. Above him we have Megatonif, who came 8th in F3 last year, who's driving for Trident. I think this is going to be a good kind of bedding in year this year for Megatonif to kind of get set while these guys above him, who performed a bit better in F3 last year, and the guys who are sticking around for another year in F2, like Crawford and Marty. This is a good season for Megatonif to kind of bed himself in and then go for it next season. But this season, I think he will have a few good results, nothing special, and he'll get set in. Above him, we have Alex Dunn with Rodin, sponsored by McLaren. Now, I think Rodin are going to be a bit better, but also not as good as they were at the start of last season. That they might. It's all up in the air. But Dunn's a good driver. He finished 14th in F3 last year in a Rodin that was. So I'm happy with him finishing in 12th this year in F2, given he's kind of outperformed the car he was in last year, and I can see him outperforming this car as well and being a lot more consistent. Above him we have 11th, just outside the top 10. Red Bull sponsored Oliver Goeth with the MP Motorsport team. He finished 7th in F3 last year, so 1 point ahead of Megatonif, 2 spots below him in my predictions this year. I think he's going to have a fine season. I think it's going to be another betting in year. I think he showed when he came in at the end of last season in F2 that he was a fine driver, but I think there's a lot of competition at the front end of this year. A lot of the top 5 drivers from the year before in F3 and the top 10 drivers in the year before in F2 are all going to be hunting for that championship. I think it's going to be a very open championship this year. I don't see any kind of standouts out of the drivers in terms of there's 5 or 6 really good shouts for the championship title. So Goeth falls in the midfield, and I think he'll be happy with that. It's a fine first year in F1 coming 11th. So in S2 coming 11th. And then we have Josh Dirksen in the AX. I think he showed that with the right engine and with the right car, on his day, he can get a podium. And if he gets a couple of podiums throughout the season, which is likely, he can finish in the top 10. And I think he will. I think he'll get the top 10 point and kind of show that he's a very solid driver. He's learnt a lot last year. And he's going to build on this year. Still not up in any higher. He's not sponsored. I don't think he's going to make it to F1. But he's still going to have a solid year and kind of maybe pivot out of the competition next season. But yeah, 10th last year, 10th this year. Solid for Dirksen. Then we have MP Motorsport's Richard Vishaw, who's going to move 1 position down from last year and go from 8th to 9th. I think he's everyone's kind of he's a safe bet, This one that doesn't miss, He's just going to be the guy who's going to get you points when points are available. He might have a few podiums, maybe a race win here and there. You know what F2's like. But still, he's not going to be consistent at the top end every race weekend, so I see him finishing 9th. Above him, it's Pepe Marti, and he had a good start of the season last year and struggled and finished down on 14th towards the end. And Red Bull, they're not going to be pleased with that. He's going to have his neck on the line in terms of sponsorship. So he will improve, I think, this year. Kind of be the new team leader. We'll try to be, at least. I don't think he will be the new team leader because I have Lindblad above him. But he's going to be a lot more solid, at least at the start of the year. He might fall off when all the rookies step up and get better and improve. But yeah, I see him doing better and sticking around for a third season in 2026. So yeah, 8th for Martin. Above him, we have Victor Martins, who retains his 7th place from 2024 into this season. I think it's just a bit past it for Martins. He used to be sponsored by Alpine, no longer. He's been overtaken by Mini, overtaken by Complimento, overtaken by Aaron, overtaken by Doohan. I think it's just the age profile and the backing that has screwed Martins over. He had a good season in 2023, but that was his chance to move on, and he didn't get the opportunity, and he's just kind of been stuck. He had a horrendous start of the season last season, pulled it back massively, and did really well in the second half of F2. But yeah, it's just I feel like when drivers know that there's no more opportunities in F2 to go any higher up, they kind of lose that hunger, that spark. Like we saw with Hadja and Bordello at the end of last season, where it was two drivers at the top of their game going for it, all that hunger. And these guys who either they know they're not going to make it up to the top, or they've tried and they haven't made it, they're just going to get their confidence knocked. And Martins is one of the guys I think will have their confidence knocked and won't be putting it all in line to do well. Then we have above him Bogdanovic, the Ferrari driver in the high-tech. The high-tech have one of the best lineups in the whole grid with Browning and Bogdanovic. And Browning, actually, I put him 1 point above in 5th in my championship. So yeah, you have the Ferrari Bogdanovic and the Williams and Browning, who I think will be both fighting for the title. I think these top 6, in my opinion, they could all win the title, honestly. And I think it would be a good competition if any of them won it. We had Bogdanovic finishing 6th in F3 last year and Browning in 3rd. So I think both these guys, they're used to battling each other. I think it'll be useful to see if they can work as a team. If they kind of maybe use some team orders to help them out on the qualifying laps, on the race, kind of propel the team high-tech to win the championship, as well as help one of these drivers do well in the championship if one of them are falling behind, you know. But it's an individual sport. I see Browning edging out Bogdanovic just because Browning's kind of his maturity. He's a lot older. He's 22 now after finishing his F3 season last year, and Bogdanovic has a couple of years left before he kind of has to probably start pushing for an F1 seat. So yeah, for me that's fine. Browning above Bogdanovic, I'm fine with that. Next up we have in 4th the champion from F3 last year, Fornaroli. I just think the other drivers were so close last season to Fornaroli that statistically it's probably unlikely that Fornaroli is going to win it again, especially with the kind of quality that we have at the top end of the order this year in F2. So I put Fornaroli in 4th, but as I said before, anywhere in the top 6, it could finish anyway for me. Maybe even top 7. Martins might be going to creep in there. In 3rd place though, I picked Arvid Lindblad. I think he will be in and toward the top most weekends, but I think he will kind of be impacted by his commitments to F1. So we've seen with Behrman that if you're a reserve driver, as Lindblad is for Red Bull and Racing Bulls, that it takes a bit out of you. You have to do a lot more sim work for the F1 car, do a lot of sim work for the F2 car, you have to do a lot of testing for the F1 car, you have to go to a lot of F1 racing mechanics, you might have to even step up if one of the 4 drivers gets ill or gets injured. It's a lot to take on. And also, I think Lindblad might be slotting in to a Racing Bulls car in 2026. So he might not have as much on the line as Mini or Crawford do above him. So yeah, Lindblad, 3rd for me. He doesn't need the super license points. He already has a super license. But he's going to be solid and show that he should be in F1 next year. Then, I have in 2nd place, Gabriele Mini. In the Alpine, kind of sponsored car for Prema. I think Mini showed last season when he came 2nd in F3. He's a great driver. He just needs a bit of luck on the side. And I think he won't get that luck. I think Crawford and the Dams will get that luck. Because Crawford, I think, has a really good opportunity to get in F1 next season. with General Motors, Andretti, whatever they're going to be called. So I'm kind of feeling a vibe of Crawford doing really well, getting into the media, using his Aston Martin links, kind of like put his name out there, and Cadillac, Andretti, General Motors picking him up for that rookie American role. He's got quite a big fan base, so for me, I just think that kind of, because everything's not going to be on the line for Crawford to put his name out there to get the win, to get into F1 for 2026. And Mini, I don't think will have an opportunity because of the amount of guys above him in that Alpine kind of paddock with Colapinto, Aaron, and Doohan. It's going to be Crawford with more to lose, and therefore he'll put more on the line. He'll put everything on the line to get that F1 seat. I think he'll make it. I like Jack Doohan. I think he's a great racer. He's still very young. I think he's like 19 still, which is a good age profile for a driver in F2. So yeah, Crawford in first for me, Mini in second, and then Glenn in third. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, where I'm right, where I'm wrong. Maybe who's your champion for 2026. Am I right in my top kind of 6-7 people prediction, and one of them will finish? Or maybe one of the guys outside that kind of top order will surprise us and win the championship, similar to Djokovic in 2021. Thank you all for watching. Peace.